I am Mohammed Lashimi, President of Ryerson University. Welcome and thank you for joining us. People of African descent have been part of shaping Canada's heritage for 400 years. Many of their stories have never been told. Black History Month is time for us to hear their voices and celebrate their contributions. If knowledge is power, then knowing their stories gives power to us all. Power to inspire change. Power to build a university and a country that work toward equality, fairness, and justice. Congratulations to the leadership team and the organizing committee for this celebration in the Faculty of Communication and Design. Thank you for helping us remember the past and empower change for the future. Thank you.
Welcome to FCAD's second annual BHM Month celebrations. Thank you for joining us today for what I know will be a great conversation with two Black female directors, Shona Foster and student director, Ayat Salih. They'll be talking about the film and television industry. This is an industry that I know well, as I've been a producer and a media executive for many years. For decades, it has been clear that this field has been challenged. It has been challenged by prejudice and by exclusion. So I'm hopeful that things are slowly changing and that we can all play a part of that change. I particularly want to thank Black faculty, staff, and students for your contributions to FCAD. You have helped us rethink the fields we're in, all of them, the creative industries. I think of so many impressive projects and initiatives. For example, the work of Kim Jenkins in Fashion and Race Database, and the projects by Cheryl Thompson in detangling the roots of Canada's Black beauty culture. In celebrating History Month, we recognize the history, contributions, and lives of Black people who have and continue to help shape our lives. We also recognize the pain, hardship, and systemic oppression suffered by Black people and Black communities. We have at FCAD an ongoing commitment to acknowledging, recognizing, and celebrating the diversity of our community. But we also have an ongoing commitment to dismantling systems of inequality as they live in our school and society at large. So again, I thank you for joining us today. And I want to give big congratulations and thanks to our organizers, everyone at the Catalyst, the Studio for Media Activism and Critical Thought, the Center for Excellence in Learning and Teaching, and our students, Imani Busby, Mira Soch, and Adele Lacusa. Enjoy.
I am delighted to be welcoming the Ryerson community to the kickoff for the Faculty of Communications and Design's event to honor Black History Month. The importance of Black History Month is clear. It is an opportunity for people in Canada to recognize, acknowledge, and celebrate the many achievements and contributions of Black Canadians and communities who have worked so hard to make Canada the prosperous nation it is today. This includes the Honorable Jean Augustine, the first Black Canadian woman elected to the Parliament of Canada, who in 1995 championed legislation to recognize February as Black History Month in Canada. It should be noted that the most critical lesson of Black History Month is that Black history is Canadian history. Because February, in its 28 to 29 days of significance, is not enough to contain the history, influence, innovations, and talents of Black people in Canada. Black history is not only a series of summaries, facts, and information that all people in Canada need to read or grasp. Rather, Black History Month represents an opportunity for us to investigate, unlearn, and relearn the authentic stories and experiences that characterize Black excellence and humanity, but have largely been left out of Canadian history. Although Canada has a narrative of multiculturalism and of being the diverse mosaic, Black identified people continue to experience discrimination, isolation, subjugation, and erasure, according to local, provincial, and national research. Anti-Black racism is pervasive in the Americas, and not just in the United States, but also in Canada. It is woven into the foundation of our country, along with white supremacy and colonization. The history and ongoing legacy of violence, trauma, and harm continues to impact Black people to this very day. So for these reasons, it is not enough to celebrate all that Black people have done for this country in the face of oppression and injustice each February. Rather, we must commit and put action towards fighting against anti-Black racism, oppression, and injustice, which cannot solely be a priority of Black communities and people, but for all people.
Hello, community members, allies, and friends. Welcome to our second annual Black History Month celebration called Black in Motion, Women Behind the Camera. My name is Natalie, and I'm the manager of The Catalyst and one of the co-organizers of tonight's event. We are so excited to be hosting this event. For those of you who don't know, The Catalyst is the first of its kind facility at Ryerson dedicated to scholarly research and creative activities. This is just one of hundreds of events that we have hosted, but Black History Month events are a labor of love for everyone on our team, who I'll introduce shortly. This Black History Month celebrates, recognizes, and showcases Black women in the film and television industry. Shona Foster and Ayat Salih are two incredible women who will be speaking about an industry that has not been historically representative or welcoming of Black voices and stories. Today's conversation looks at the past, present, and future of the film and television industry. Dr. Cheryl Thompson will be moderating today's discussion. Sorry guys, I'm having trouble speaking. Before we begin, it's important for us to acknowledge the land, even if we're not all on the same land right now. Ryerson University is built on land taken from Indigenous people, specifically the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee, as part of an ongoing colonial relationship that we must acknowledge and strive to overturn. If you're joining us from anywhere in the Americas or Oceania, you can learn more about the land that you're on and who it belongs to by going to native-land.ca. Today's session will be recorded so that it can be made available to people who are unable to attend. Live captioning is available as well. In order to use the live caption feature, hover over the lower ribbon on the bottom of your screen, click the CC box labeled live transcript, and click show subtitle. Instructions have been put in the chat. If you have questions during this event, please write your questions in the Q&A. The Q&A button is located in the ribbon at the bottom of your screen. I would like to extend a huge thank you to this year's organizing team, which includes Dr. Cheryl Thompson, our moderator, Nikki Wahid from Experiential Learning, Mira Govindasamy from the Studio of Media Activism and Critical Thought, the Catalyst staff director, Dr. Farka Zeller, and Akosh Katona, and from the Dean's Office, Kate Canavan and Jackie Odwong. Last but not least, our incredible students who I'll talk more about in a minute, Imani Busby, Mira Asso, and Adele Lacusa. You are also the creators of the Book of Black Joy, which you'll see shortly. But first, let me introduce you to our students properly. Imani Busby is an entrepreneurial and ambitious undergraduate student in creative industries. She aspires to become an art curator with the goal of increasing the representation of BIPOC artists within galleries and public spaces. Imani is a member of the Ryerson Fashion Zone, where she is working with a team of mentors and peers to develop a creative agency that works with visual artists, fashion designers to promote a sustainable and inclusive creative economy through fashion and art. Additionally, Imani is the first undergraduate research assistant for the Studio of Media Activism and Critical Thought. As she is passionate about social justice, she is also a co-founder of Toronto's Manifesto, an Instagram-based platform dedicated to uplifting and amplifying the voices of Black and Indigenous communities across Canada. while providing a database of various educational resources and numerous ways to support these communities. Adele Lacusa is a Congolese freelance writer, artist, and fourth-year journalism student at Ryerson. When she isn't writing, you can find her baking up a storm, choreographing IG story exclusive dances, criticizing media like her life depends on it, or promoting her latest obsession on Twitter. Mira Asso is a Cameroonian Malagasy multidisciplinary artist with a current focus on poetry, collage art, and zine making. They are a fourth-year creative industry student at Ryerson, specializing in performance studies and storytelling in media. They are a community arts facilitator for the Black Mosaic, which is a virtual hub for Black creatives to share artistic works in progress. The Black Mosaic is an initiative stemming from the Creativity Everything Lab. Mira is passionate about plant life, DIY culture, and Afrofuturism. I'm going to turn it over to our students, Imani, Mira, and Adele, to tell us more about the Book of Black Joy.
Hi, thank you for that very beautiful introduction.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, can everyone see the screen? Great.
Okay, yeah, so the three of us, we created the Little Book of Black Joy, and we were brought on to be a part of the Black History Month planning committee for this event. And we were brought in as student advisors, and we were thinking, oh, what would our contribution be to this event, and what can we do? So between the three of us, we brainstormed and we came up with the idea to create this little book of Black Joy, because we thought it was really important to celebrate Black joy, especially in this time right now when there's so much that we're going through as a community. And despite it all, we're still thriving, we're still being joyful, finding things to smile about, and making change, and really leaving our impact and legacy on society. So we really wanted to highlight and celebrate the vastness and multifaceted nature of Black joy.
Yeah. So our main question when we asked the book was, when we made the book, was, what does Black joy mean to you? So I picked out one of my favorite pages from the book, and to me, Black joy is finding Black joy within myself and also with others. And one of the participants who submitted what Black joy meant to them had the phrase, "I feel like I express Black joy in the way I live my life and commune with Black folks." So I just, yeah, for me, the piece of art that I created for this is called A Portrait of My Inner Child, Black Joy Does Exist. And I created this to express myself in the sense that Black joy can exist externally, and it should exist internally, and we should all, if we can, take care of our inner child.
So this was one of my favorite pages from the book. Somebody sent in the quote that Black joy is existing freely, and I really loved it because I think it speaks to freedom of expression and how there's something really beautiful in just being our authentic selves as we are, and how that's something to really celebrate, especially in a society where it's telling us that we need to conform to being one way or the other. I think that it's really beautiful to celebrate just being who you are. And also I loved it because it says existing freely, and joy itself is undefined, and we as people are also undefined. So I think that I thought it was a really beautiful quote.
So this is one of my favorite pages, and this is another one of the entries that we got from like Ryerson community members, the Black community members that we know of, that we reached out to. So this quote was, "Black joy is the smell of onions cooking in clarified butter when my sister makes Dora when I read this, I personally did not know what that was, but just like it's just like hearing about it just made me think about all like the specific kitchen, the specific like smells that I was having in my kitchen when I was growing up, and even to this day, and like just the particular ways in which Black people like everywhere just make food, and how it's so particular to all of our cultures and stuff. And like even just like noticing that even trying other African cuisines and other Black cuisines, I'm just like always just enjoying it, always just so amazed by how like powerful something as like just taste is to like Black people and to like Black community and stuff like that. So that's just something that I've always loved. And I love this collage as well, that Vermeer with brandy on the side, it just really works together.
This is one of my other favorite pages. The quote from a community member is, "I express Black joy by being unapologetically loud." So that links perfectly to the collage art because it is loud, and I named it Exploring the Cosmos because I love space, I love Afrofuturism, it really speaks to me, and I put this child in the glass, kind of like in the looking glass moment, to look towards the future, because there's a lot of beautiful things that will happen, and I really want to hold on to that, while also holding space for the harshness and the reality of being Black in this world. So I'm always looking towards the future and cherishing the past and the present. That's what Black joy means to me.
So this was another one of my favorite pages, because the painting on the right, it's a portrait of my brother, Jamari, and it's the first time that I ever painted one of my family members. So there's a lot of sentimental value there for me as well. And I also gave this painting to my mother as a gift. So it just, like, looking at it, seeing it, it brings me a lot of joy personally. And I think that that's also something really beautiful and cool that I wanted to share with you guys too. Yeah.
And I feel like this kind of like closes off kind of what we've all been talking about when it comes to Black joy. But just this quote, like, Black joy endures in our lives forever. I was like, there's no other word. Like, how else do I expand on that? Like, what else do I need to say? Like, it is what it is, you know? Like, you get it if you get it. If you don't get it, you don't get it, you know? So it's just like, for me, like, just thinking about like forever and like the ways in which Black people think about the future and stuff like that. Like, I've always kind of been like an optimistic person. Like, I've tried to push it, like, to put it down or like to like tamper it down, but it doesn't really work. And I think there's something really beautiful about the ways in which Black people can be super realistic about the current like social climate, whatever's going on, and still do all this radical work and still like hope for a future, and still like have joy and like look forward to joy and bring joy to other people and like in community and themselves and stuff. And I think that's what's really beautiful, like about Blackness, about Black community, about Black joy. And it's just there. Like, I love that this is like one of like the last pages from our book as well. That really closes off like what we really were all talking about.
Thank you to all the participants who shared your beautiful responses for this book. Genuinely, like, that was the core of what we built the book out for. So thank you so much. And thank you to the Black History Month Committee at FCAD for all of your support and encouragement. Adele, Imani, do you have some final words to say?
Yeah, just echoing what you said. Thank you so much for supporting the book, and thank you for everybody that shared as well. It was really beautiful reading all the responses and the definitions of Black joy. Yeah, so thank you all so much, even for attending this event as well. I know that it's going to be amazing. Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, just like the same as everyone said, I think I'm just thankful for y'all that we had the support, that we had this camaraderie in order to make this actually happen. Like, I'm glad that like I got invited into this just randomly last October, and that it's gone up to make this a super beautiful thing that's gonna live on for as long as the internet is alive, I guess. So it's just like very, I don't know, it's just like, it just warms my heart. Like I love that this got out there and that I got to be a part of it. So yeah, just thank you guys.
Yes. The book will be available online somewhere on the internet. You'll find out. Don't worry. And yeah, thank you all for listening.
Yeah, there's a link in the comments if you want to check it out.
Amazing. Okay. Now we're going to head into the event. I would like to introduce our moderator for this discussion, Dr. Cheryl Thompson. So Dr. Thompson is an assistant professor at Ryerson University in the School of Creative Industries. She is a member of the Yeats School of Graduate Studies, the graduate program in Communication and Culture, where she earned her MA in 2007. Prior to joining Ryerson, she held a SSHRC Banting Postdoctorate Fellowship at the University of Toronto in the Centre for Theatre, Drama, and Performance Studies. She has a PhD in Communication Studies from McGill University. Dr. Thompson is the author of Beauty in a Box, Detangling the Roots of Canada's Black Beauty Culture, and a new book that just came out, Uncle, Race, Nostalgia, and the Politics of Loyalty, published by Coach Books. The link to her book will be sent in the chat. Dr. Thompson was appointed co-director of the Studio of Media Activism and Critical Thought, SMACT. Along with co-director Meera Govindasamy, SMACT is a laboratory for some of Canada's most compelling media scholars, artists, and activists. Dr. Thompson's academic essays have appeared in Emergent Feminisms, Challenging a Post-Feminist Media Culture, the Journal of Canadian Studies, Canadian Journal of History, Annales Canadiennes d'Histoire, Feminist Media Studies, and Fashion Studies. Dr. Thompson is currently researching Canada's history of Blackface performance, funded through a SSHRC Insight Development Grant and a SSHRC Connection Grant in collaboration with Pink Moon Studio. In collaboration with Pink Moon Studio, she is producing a feature documentary film based on her research. In addition to her academic writing, Dr. Thompson is a columnist with Horizons, Canada's leading feminist magazine. She is also a frequent contributor to The Conversation, Spacing, and Zoomer, with one of her recent works appearing in the New York Times.
Okay, I'll go next. I have the honor of introducing Ayat Salih, which is our young student director here. So Ayat Salih is a Sudanese artist and media production student at Ryerson University. A common thread in her work is a passion for social justice, innovative media, and storytelling. She is currently the writer and director, as well as many other hats, for the upcoming short experimental drama Purple Matter, which she'll be talking about today, a story about a Black queer woman confronting her grief and newfound love through dreams. Her work as a research assistant for the SSHRC Finding a Home project on placemaking for queer women refugees allowed her to explore academia, documentary making, and art-based research. As a co-creator of the Crafting Sapphic Space Toolkit, which I also co-created with her, she worked on a guide on exclusive and accessible event planning for all Sapphics and co-presented this work at the Talking Back Feminist Media Conference. Being part of the Black Liberation Collective at Ryerson University, a political student group, allowed her to co-organize different community events and programs, as well as action work combining anti-Black racism. Her radio show turned vodcast, Radical Gossip, a show where her and her co-hosts talk shit, but it's for the revolution, is currently a project under the Transmedia Zone. Aya looks forward to broadening and diversifying her art and community work.
I'll be introducing Shona Foster. Shona Foster is an award-winning director, producer, and storyteller who is on a mission to leave this world a better place through the art of film and through her commitment of supporting the careers of emerging talent. Her career began at the age of 8 in front of the camera when she was cast as the lead in the short film Gone a Foreign, written and directed by Anne-Marie Murray. She credits the experience of working with Murray as the defining moment where she decided that she would continue to pursue her passion of storytelling through the art of film and television. She received her BFA honors degree in theater from York University, where she studied in the Creative Ensemble Conservatory. Shona has worked professionally as an artist and as a business professional for award-winning production and distribution companies in roles which include business affairs associate, assistant production manager, and executive assistant. Shona made her directorial debut in the short film Residue, which was licensed by the CBC for national broadcast and is currently available for streaming through CBC Gem. She has also directed branding content for various companies across the GTA. Her producer credits include the award-winning I Lost My Mind by Michael Tobin, He Murdered Sleep by Jeremy Boston, and Noor and Layla by Fazia Mirza. Currently, Shona works as a freelance director, producer, and consultant in film and television. Okay, and now we'll hand it over to
A little Zoom clap for the hosts, for the panelists, and let's start.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much. I don't think I've ever had to wait so long to talk. It was very difficult for me. I was holding myself back like, when am I going to talk? Anyway, I'm just joking for those who don't know me, but for those who do, you know where I'm coming from. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. That was an amazing intro. I feel like that was, you know, when you go to a really fancy restaurant and they give you like 2 appetizers. That was 2 appetizers. So thank you so much for that. And now we get to the main dish, so to speak. And just quickly, I just want to say, like, you know, this idea for the theme of today's event, it really came about because I felt that we don't hear enough about women in film. We don't hear enough about Black women in film in Canada. And I just thought Black history, let's do it. And so today's format for the next 45 minutes or so, I hope it's going to be really engaging. And I hope I just got your energy up. If you were kind of like, oh, this thing, come on now. We want some high energy on this Zoom. It's really going to be about me asking questions to Shona and Ayat, and then engaging in a dialogue. So I want to begin with Shona. And the first question I want to throw to you, Shona, is just about your journey. I mean, obviously we hear our bios, but that's just a taste of it, right? I just want to get a sense for you when you realized that you wanted to actually work behind the camera, and how did you go from that idea and that desire to actually turning that into a reality? Because, you know, we have a lot of students who want to get into creative fields. They have no idea how to actually make that happen. So I just thought maybe we'd start off with you sharing how you did it.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having myself and Ayat. My journey, it's multifaceted. It's a windy road kind of journey. And it was touched on in my bio. I started behind the camera. So I started as a child actor, and then, you know, I went on to study theater and acting in university. But I always credit working with Anne-Marie Murray on Gone a Foreign as a child as really the moment that planted the seed for me. I had never seen, I didn't even know, like you, at that point, I never had seen a Black woman director, nor had I been on a set like that was diverse. And so I really credit that experience to knowing that, you know, oh, wow, this is something I can do. And in terms of finding my way behind the camera, I grew up with a family that was very immersed in watching a lot of cinema and film, and I had a dad who loved foreign cinema. And as a child, I didn't really appreciate, because I didn't really understand. But the older I got, I fell in love with film. And my first directing gig, it was actually a corporate gig that came to me by the way of Deanna Cadet, who at the time was the director of the Bell Media Diversity Program over at the WGC. And Deanna got wind of this pretty good big corporate gig and put my name forth. And that I would say, I mean, I had made small things before on my own, but that was my first paying gig for a company with executive producers, with an entire crew shooting in studio. And I loved the experience. And that really propelled all the gigs afterwards. Because I find in this industry, it's like things happen word of mouth, or you're creating things on your own. You often, I find, I'm not sure if Ayat finds the same thing, but you tend to collaborate with some of the same people. You bring new people into the mix, but then you have like your go-tos and whatnot. But yeah, that corporate gig was the first time I was, as they say, the orchestrator or the conductor of the orchestra on set.
Yeah, and I think that's a really useful point, because a lot of students, hello, if there's any students listening, it's like sometimes you just need that one opportunity, and then it leads to the next thing and the next thing, right? And sometimes that opportunity is a small thing,
Exactly.
right? And everyone's waiting for the big thing. It's like, well, take the small thing, it's going to lead to other things, right?
Exactly. That's a great point, because I find when I also work in communities and have taught workshops to youth, and everybody, it's like you just want to create that big thing. I mean, we're all not waiting, but we all have the goal of like creating our masterpiece. But I encourage students, like, if you have the opportunity to make something, small, even if it's a corporate gig, all of those skills you're going to acquire, you're going to be able to apply to making your masterpiece. It's not my dream to make corporate videos, but definitely, I've met amazing crew, I've shared experiences, I've learned skills, and by taking those gigs on. So yeah, I encourage students to do that.
Cool. No, thank you so much. So Ayat, you're kind of at the beginning, I guess, of your film journey, and I mean, I guess it's good to ask, what is sort of leading you to want to be a filmmaker? Like, what's driving you to think that your role in this industry is going to be in directing?
Right. So, like Shona, I kind of like got my start at home. And there's this thing that my mom said once, like in passing in like different times, but I'm the youngest, she once said that I'm her last love. And she once said that film is her first love. And that was like such a full circle moment for me. And it was around when I was a teenager, it just kind of clicked that, yeah, that is a possibility. I could become a filmmaker. I could go to school to become a filmmaker. And after that, it just kind of made sense. Like, I see the world kind of in movie scenes anyway. So I might as well strive to have a career that accommodates to my perspective and not try to fit myself into another job that wouldn't make sense to me in my mind. And I guess like an aspect about myself is that I feel like I'm quite observant of like emotions, or like, as my friends would say, I'm like observant of the vibes. And in order to like make use of that, I guess, I thought that, yes, film is the best way to do that, basically. Because there are moments where like words fall short or sounds fall short. And in a film, I feel like I can truly express what is happening in my mind, which is a more visual mind, I guess. So yeah, that's kind of what like drove me to directing. And it's also just the idea of like the agency of being able to like take my stories and my emotions and fulfill them in the way that I want to, and have control over that. And I don't have to like keep trying to strive to find that like that one film that just like makes sense to me for this emotion. I can create that film, and I can do that for myself, and I can do that for my people, basically.
Okay, this is a mic drop, because you literally have just described why I became a writer and why I became a professor. It's the exact reason.
Yeah.
Because for me, I look at words the way you're describing images. And I look at what I'm trying to do the same way. like I just got goosebumps. Okay, and I'm old as hell, so you gave me goosebumps. That's saying a lot, because
So
you're like,
flattered.
your skin gets a little different texture as you get older. But but that's a good segue into like how you guys got into film, what your passions were, and now you get into an industry that has a different story for who you are as a director. So this next question is really for both of you to grapple with. You know, the film industry has not always been very welcome to Black actors. And a lot of these challenges we've all heard of, hashtag Hollywood so white, and all the other hashtags that have circulated the last few years. We often don't get to hear about the technical side of the industry and the challenges that Black people also have on the technical side. What are some of the challenges on that side of the industry, and how are they different at all from those you think faced by actors?
I think the industry has done or is doing a better job at what's front facing, what's in front of the camera. Um, and I think a part of that has to do with the fact that talent, front facing talent, is what gets bums in seats and sells tickets and contributes to your bottom line, you know? I think we're still very much struggling to do that work behind the scenes. I think that the technical side of the industry is a space that's been dominated by whiteness and specifically male whiteness. And so when you have a space that um, is predominantly non-BIPOC and you have decision makers who are non-BIPOC, I mean, it's not lost on me that they're not yelling from the rooftops, about the challenges faced, for Black individuals looking to access these spaces and opportunities. You know, it's not lost on me that those who hold these positions and positions of power um, sometimes feel that equality is like a form of oppression of their privilege and the positions that they hold, rather than looking at it as a way of this art form is, how we build empathy and how we learn about each other and build community. And I guess to see that change, um we need also white people to be allies and speak up and make space. We need these individuals, in my opinion, in communities, letting our younger individuals know what is available, what is accessible, what are these roles, how do you get there, what are the pipelines, what are the challenges, what are the resources you can access. Because if we don't have that, then this cycle, I think, will just continue, where we're not going to be seeing, because eventually those who are of color, who are having these positions, will get older, will retire. The cycle needs to continue, and how we do that is we got to make sure that we're encouraging, supporting, and providing those pipelines to younger individuals. Yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. Ayat, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was actually going to answer this like from the perspective of a Sudanese university student. And so Cheryl, you were one of 2 Black professors I've had in my undergrad out of, say, like 40 professors, right?
Yes, and I remember you sat in the second row, right in the middle.
Yeah, I was very excited about my first Black professor. Like,
taking notes every time.
Yeah. Thank you for the plug, by the way. But yeah, no. Basically, the issue starts in education, and the fact that so many Black creatives are the only Black person in their classroom, and that like fosters a whole bunch of issues. One being like imposter syndrome, and the fact that people in my position, we can like lose confidence to go on when we keep seeing the same people find success and those people don't look like you. And then another issue is that you spend so much energy and time in class, um, kind of being like the Black student, the Black advocate. And the education I'm receiving is not the same education that my classmates are receiving. And that distinction, I'm spending energy like trying to correct the professor, or I'm spending energy like the fact that my syllabus is so whitewashed and I don't relate to anything that it's saying. All of these like this theoretical education we're supposed to receive does not apply to me or my history or my aesthetics or my culture. Um, and then also, like as a Sudanese person, like it's no secret that the industry kind of runs on nepotism. And when you're a newcomer, I'm not anyone's daughter or sibling or nephew, like niece or any of that. So that's how so many people my age or my level like get their opportunities. Um, and also, I think I think this is something that a lot of diasporic people can relate to, maybe, is that there's a lack of cinema culture that I can look to as a Sudanese person, because Sudan was robbed of its cinema culture by colonialism, by dictatorship. Um, and I don't have any guidance. I don't have any mentors that I can look to, uh, so that I know what to do next. I mean, like the Italians, they have their people, the French, they have their people. I don't have any Sudanese cinema that I can look to, and that is the story that I want to portray. So how exactly do I move forward when, me and my peers, we feel like we're the pioneers of Sudanese cinema in 2021? Like that is an immense amount of pressure, and you're being compared to these people who have had a path paved for them.
I hear you, and I think you just reminded me of what Toni Morrison said when she was writing her first book in 1970 at the it would have been in the 60s, but The Bluest Eye is Toni Morrison's first book, published in 1970. She was 39 and she had worked, I don't know, 10, 15 years as an editor. And one of the reasons why she kept persevering to write that book was because she said to herself, if I keep not seeing myself in the things that I'm reading, then I have to write myself into existence. And so sometimes, I think young people such as yourself, you're told to go to school, but nobody tells you in going to school and studying what you're studying that you're going to be a trailblazer and you're going to be the first and you're going to be a pioneer. They don't tell you any of that, right? Instead, they tell you, oh, good luck. It's always so hard to go into university. They just fill you with all the negativity. But the reality is I heard your story and I'm like, girl, don't you know how amazing that is? I'm excited for you. I'm like, you're a pioneer. Don't you know they study the pioneers in school? They just don't study the Black ones. But I learned all about the pioneers, right? We go to Pioneer Village. They have a whole village in Vaughan that's about pioneers. So to me, pioneers are to be celebrated. So embrace that and step into your power is what I have to say to that. Because I think and it's unfortunate in 2021, but out of the unfortunate often is born greatness, right? So it's a double-edged sword, because it's tough and you're thinking, well, why do I have to go through all this stuff? But it's like in the Caribbean culture at Christmas time, we make black cake. Do you know how much work goes into making the cake black? If people knew, that's like 6 hours of work to make that black cake that people are just eating, right? So there's a lot that we're having to do that, but the reward is worth it. And so that's what I hear from you. And I just want to say thank you for you, because you're daring to step into something without any guidance. And it's very scary. But everybody loves horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
They like to pay to be scared, but they don't want to be scared in their real life. But you have to be. Go ahead, Shona.
Oh no, I just going off of Ayat, thank you for sharing that. And I think too, sharing our stories and having conversations like this is so important. And I think finding community is important. You know, similar to Ayat, like I did 5 years of university and I was the only Black student in my program for the entire 5 years. I never had a Black teacher my entire life. Entire life, not in high school, not in elementary school, not in university. And I think it's important to engage in these types of discussions and know that like you're not alone in these experiences. And the pressure to be a trailblazer, I think many of us feel it. And this is kind of sidetracking a little bit, but this is where I think, and maybe we'll get to this in the conversation, this is where I think we have to have these government and funding bodies put the money, give us the funds so that we can create the work we want to create. Because yes, we're not somebody's niece or daughter, and we need that access too. We need money to create the films that we want to do. And I think that's, you know, a big part of the problem as well.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, you know, I think one of the things about these kinds of conversations is that they always when I devising this chat, I wanted to get the problems out of the way, and then I wanted to bring it back to the joy of why you're doing it to begin with. So this is another question for both of you is what do you love about directing? Like when you strip it down, and I can tell you, like I can interlope myself into this as somebody who I consider myself to be a writer. What I love about writing is that I can observe something that's happened, whether it's in my real life, media culture, or on the street, and then I can bring it to the world. I can take my thoughts on it and share it with people. That's what I love about writing. So what do you love about directing that you can't even imagine really doing anything else? And maybe it could just be just like one thing. It doesn't have to be like the whole thing.
I honestly, when I saw this, I kind of struggled with this question because I have a love-hate relationship with directing. I mean, I've only directed one film so far.
And that's okay too. I think that's okay too.
Yeah. And like I directed it in a pandemic too. So it wasn't like ideal situation to have my, you know, debut or whatever. But I think part of what I enjoy about being a director is the fact that I'm also the writer and that I have created this story and I'm able to see it through. I think with directing, there's a lot of responsibility and there's a lot of, with it, power and agency that you can take a story that you know people aren't hearing and you have the power to like see it through, and the you have the creative control to tell it the way that you want it to be told, instead of, I guess, instead of like, I don't know, lending it to someone else kind of thing. Yeah. But like I said, I'm a nervous person. So being on set was very difficult. And I think that is something that I'll have to work on. But if there are any other student directors out there who are very scared about being on set, like that's completely fine. And I think it's supposed to get better. But yeah.
Yeah, and if I could just add, I love that because so many people, they don't do things because they're nervous. Like they think because they're nervous is a reason not to do it. I mean, believe it or not, I get nervous. I get nervous every day, but I just lean in. I'm like, oh, am I nervous? Oh, it's going to be good. At this point, I think if I'm nervous, that means it's good. If I'm not nervous, why am I doing it? There's something I shouldn't be doing, right? So I think nervous energy is really important to learn how to work with instead of resisting, which sometimes people think they need to do. But having known you, I wouldn't have pegged you as a nervous person because you didn't seem nervous in my class.
I was extremely nervous in your class.
Really?
Yeah, but like you said, the nervousness is good. It's fine.
Yeah.
So
I think for myself, like I think like this art form for me it's just the most honest form of expression, I think. And I love the process. I love like coming together with a team of artists and creatives to like just examine the human condition in the world and who we are as individuals, and to ask tough questions and engage in like compelling conversation and creating film and like content. I mean, we get to like create a reality that's familiar or one that's made up, but in doing that, you know, we invict like emotion, and we shift the world a little bit, and we impact somebody, and as I said before, we build empathy, and we get to like be involved in the process of like human connection, whether that's like through in sitting in a dark, like we choose to go to the theater and sit in a dark room with like strangers and have this experience, and there's something beautiful about that. And like there's just nothing I could see myself doing. It's like I get emotional, like, because I just love it. I love the form.
I mean, I think one of the things I know I miss about film through this pandemic is that you're not you're not going to turn the lights out in your I mean, you might, but like you're just not, it's not the same setting. I do definitely miss that, because you know what, when you do that, when you go to the cinema and you turn the lights off, it's an amazing experience because you're experiencing this thing with strangers. That's what I love about seeing a movie. Nobody really knows anyone other than the person that you came with. And then to get the responses, right? Like there is really truly, it's not really the same as when you're Netflixing at home, right? And you pause it to go to the washroom or something. It's just not quite the same. But let's keep it moving. I think this is a good time for you all to, because you're creatives, like to share something that you might be working on. So Shona, do you have anything that you're working on that you would like to share with everyone?
I'm currently working on a short film. It's written by an awesome student that I mentored. And it's called What If We Are Not Okay and What If We're Not Sorry. I'll be producing and directing. And we have just, we've acquired a commitment from Cameron Pictures. And the CBC is very close to coming on board with this project, which we're very excited about. And we're hoping to go to camera in this summer. I'm also attached to 2 pilot series that are in development, and I'm writing a feature film. And I'm also on a feature film called Zela, which we just received my first set of development funding from Telefilm, which I'm very, very excited about. So that's kind of the lay of the land. I also want to say that I worked with Cheryl on a campaign for Gold Series, which
That's
is how
right. Let me drop that in the chat. Yes.
Drop that in. That's where we met.
That's where we met.
And like going off of what I was saying earlier, I mean, when I watch, I mean, we released this digital campaign and it's what, maybe a minute, 60 seconds worth of content that the world gets to see, but we shot for 2 days. So like I have all this raw footage that I can probably make a documentary film about. And even being on that set and being in that space with such powerful Black women and pretty much an all Black crew, there was some serious magic and emotion and things happening in that space. And for me, like, I don't know if you felt it, Cheryl, but something great was happening there. And
yes,
you know, and I'm just like,
absolutely. I mean,
we could make an 8-hour film, you know?
Yes, we could have made an 8-hour film. And the whole time I was like, you know, I speak for a living, right? That's actually what I do. But whenever I've been on film sets and been in that kind of, like, I'm learning, I guess, as I've done more of this, the relationship that the person in the documentary really has a relationship with the director. Like, that's who's sitting across the camera that you don't see when you watch a documentary, and that's who you're in conversation with. And I just remember vividly in our session how I literally at one moment, it was as if me and you were just in spotlight. Like I didn't see the crew, I didn't see the set. It was just me and you in spotlight, and you were asking me questions as if we were like, and it was weird because it was as if we knew each other. It wasn't as if it was a documentary. And I could tell that wasn't on me creating that energy. I credit that to you. Like, you created that dynamic. because otherwise it can be very intimidating, right? You're in a seat, there's all these people around that you don't see when you watch the video, right? It looks very intimate, but it really isn't a film set, but you made it intimate. And I just thought to myself, that's special. I want to see this person again. And that's literally where this idea came to actually put the panel together. And I also thought to myself, you know, it's not very common in Canada that a Black person in that position is asking another Black person, tell me about your life. You know, like, tell me about your story. Tell me about your hair. So for me, I thought to myself, you know, and this is also a lesson for students as well. Often students will think if they get a gig that is a corporate gig, right, and it's for a big corporation, somehow they think, oh man, you're selling out. Selling out to who? Make it something that's authentic to you. Because I can tell you that entire experience was very authentic to me. And I know all the other women that I still keep in touch with, they still feel the same way about it. So thank you for being you, because it was truly an event. Ayat, I know that you actually have a film that's going to be released soon. Would you like to tell us about it? And I know we're going to see a little clip from it as well.
Yeah, so just, last fall, we shot Purple Matter, which was part of my senior thesis, my practicum. And I shot it with my DOP, Ryan Dioso, and audio lead, Michaela O'Brien, as well as marketing from Nicholas Armstrong, and PA'd by Annie Slotnick, and also co-produced by Samay Alkin. So Purple Matter is about a young queer woman confronting the grief of her deceased mother and her newfound love with her girlfriend Rose, and all of this is being explored through her dreams. Yeah, so I guess we can play the clip now.
Was I enough? Did you think I was enough? Please, Mama. Am I the woman you thought I'd be? Why can't you just answer my questions? Answer me, Mama.
What do you feel?
I miss you.
I said, what are you feeling?
Cool. So yeah, that was the trailer. And when I originally pitched the film, I said I didn't have a story. I was like, I want to create a film about a Black queer woman and her dreams. I'm obsessed with dreams. Every morning I start the day by, oh my God, I had the wildest dream. And that's just kind of the person I am. I know I'm annoying, but it's, at least I made a movie out of it, I guess. So yeah, when I pitched that, I guess my thinking was a lot of the kind of more introspective or existential films that we see, we typically think of a white man going through some kind of identity crisis or whatever. And I just I just don't think their lives are interesting enough for that. However, a Black queer woman, she has something to say, in my opinion. And yeah, I wanted a film to explore how exactly we can portray dreams. And, dreams being a kind of like manifestation of our emotional and literal realities, and how exactly um, how can we put that on screen, and also the fact that films could also be defined as like a manifestation of our emotional and literal realities. And there's so many similarities between dreams and art that I feel like this is kind of like there it should be explored more. Like there's like kind of like the way that we explore space, like this is kind of a mind that we can just like keep going into, and really like develop our understanding of ourselves, and kind of realize that there isn't much of a distinction between our waking lives and our dream lives, and our dream lives deserve more attention. And I wanted I wanted to find how exactly audiences would interpret the dreams that I was putting forward, um, because it wasn't literal, and films are already something that we want to interpret, and really allowing a viewer to like fully interpret something that is completely metaphorical. And it's beautiful that our minds are able to create those metaphors for us. So we should celebrate that more. Um, and I also, the themes that I wanted to talk about were kind of like the specific reality of a Black immigrant queer woman, and what is coming out to someone like her. Because it doesn't make sense that coming out of the closet is such a like Western concept, and it's like so foreign to so many queer people who don't live on this side of the world, or who don't assimilate to like North American or like Eurocentric type of cultures.
And I could just say, I think you just blew minds with that statement, because I don't think many people have maybe even ever thought of that's not a universal practice. That's just
Yeah.
everyone, just not everyone.
Yeah. And specifically making the mother dead, that that is the that is actually the reality of most queer people with Ilham's story, Ilham the main character, that your family, like this sounds gruesome, your family might as well be dead, because they're never going to find out your true, like your identity, your sexuality. Like that is not a reality. And for Ilham, that reality can only come true after her mother has died. Then she can start negotiating, what does coming out look like to me, and how exactly do I come out to my mother in my dreams? And kind of like the anxieties that rise up with, she's starting this new life with her girlfriend Rose, and she realizes that like there's something about the fact that um dead people, they stay the same, and living people, we just continue our lives. And to have, you say you love your mother and you have a close relationship to her, of course you would never disclose this aspect about yourself. But you kind of think about it more because, oh, now this is finally a reality where I can tell her something like this. Because for most people it's not a reality when everyone's on the same earth plane type of thing. We have to do this in the astral plane. So, yeah.
No, I mean, I think that, I mean, I'm sold. Can you just let us know when we can see this film?
Absolutely.
You can share it in all of our networks, because I would, what's the old line? You had me at a hello, but I don't think you said hello, so we can forget that. But I want to get on to what might end up being our last question. And I think, it's kind of, I used to be a music reporter. And I remember back in the day, this is like pre-digital. Standard question, if you ever like interviewed an artist, you'd be like, yeah, so what's in your CD Rolodex? literally, or what are you listening to? So I just thought it would be kind of a fun way to end this conversation. Although we might have another question I sneak in at the end, but what was that film? If you could think about that one film that just said, that lit that spark that said, ooh, okay, I need to be a part of this. I don't know what this is, but I can tell you for me, because it's always going to be related to books, when I read the autobiography of Malcolm X by Alex Haley, I was like, okay, Alex Haley done died now, so I can't meet him, but I need to do this. Like when I read that book, for me, because I was like 14 when I read that book, it just changed my life completely, because it was autobiography, it was history, it was culture, it was politics, it was like everything. So for what was that film that was like that, where it's just kind of like, yes, I think I like something here. Either one of you can answer that.
Oh, do you want to go?
I think Shona's saying, Ayat, this is you.
Oh, okay. Well, this is such a hard question because there's so many films that I wanted to say. Kind of like reflecting on different aspects of film that I love. So I'm just gonna like name drop something, like just a few titles. But like one was Before Sunrise. I loved it because it was a film literally just about a conversation between two people, and it blew my mind that that was allowed. Like I thought it was like you couldn't do something like that. You had to make a film that was like about a complicated bank heist or something like that, and my mind simply does not work that way. But my mind does work in like, oh, look at how the sunlight falls on the ground, it's so beautiful. And so that film meant a lot to me. But one I wanted to highlight is this Sudanese short film called Raqba that I watched when I was maybe 14. It was a small film festival that happened in a cultural center in Khartoum when I was like living there as a teenager. And I've never seen this film again. I can't find it online. I don't know who made it. But it was very scandalous. It was about this couple, this unmarried couple who were preparing to have sex. And if you grew up in Sudan, you knew that you weren't allowed to say the word sex in any aspect, not even in a biology class. So that again, the fact that like this is a very real Sudanese story, and the whole drama, the whole plot of the story was like, so basically the girl, her mom was like leaving and she was going to go to the market or something like that. So then they were like planning this for like, it was so intricate. And it's funny because in Sudan, there's this thing called like mushkilat win, like the problem of where, like you want to do these things, but where are you going to do it? Because it's not like you have any sort of privacy or personal freedom, especially as like a young woman. So where are you going to do these things? And they found a way, and it was funny, but it was also just like, it felt like intimate. And it sorry, it's called Raghba, which means desire. I should have started with that, but it was just fascinating that like they were like, so I am able to talk about Sudanese stories, but I don't necessarily have to worry, or I do have to worry about it, but like I still can explore the things that we don't talk about, the things that they're not going to show on TV ever, that you're just going to see in passing at some short film festival. And even if I created a film like that and it stuck with someone, even if they can't remember my name, they can't remember where they saw it, they can't remember any of these details, I'm completely fine with it, because then at least they would have seen something that was worth watching, because it was about people like you. It was actually stories that were relevant to you. So yeah, I love that.
I'm like, again, another one. Where can I watch this? Like, what is going on?
I tried looking it up. I cannot find it anywhere. I just end up on weird places on the internet whenever I try. But
Shona,
I would love to see that film.
I know. Shona, do you have a film quickly that you can talk about, or?
for me, it's Do the Right Thing. I saw it very young when I probably should not have seen it. But it's that film for me. But I love it's like Ayat said, it's a hard one because I
Yeah.
love movies like Bicycle Thieves is one for me, and Beau Travail, like Claire Denis' work, and Barry Jenkins, Moonlight. Like there's so many things.
Yeah, I mean, I had to ask I mean, I had
So
to.
hard.
So we are getting a little bit to time, so I'm just gonna ask this last question. And I think it's really important to think about, hey man, it is Black History Month. Technically, this is the last working day of Black History Month, right? Because it ends on the weekend. And I think it's just really important to end off in a note of, you know, what are your aspirations for the future? Like, what do you see in terms of the Black Canadian stories that can be told, in terms of the type of Black cinema that can actually start to even be made in Canada? Because I actually think we are a little bit on there's like a little bit of a renaissance that might happen here in terms of over the next few years. So what do you guys think? Like, where are we at?
I mean, I feel like Black Canadian cinema is still, I almost feel like, is that a thing? Like we're still getting there, you know?
Yeah. But could it be a thing? Could it become a thing, I guess?
Yes, for sure. I mean, we have great filmmakers here. We have, you know, Charles Officer. You can go down I mean, Stella McGee's not here anymore, but there's great Canadian filmmakers like Clement Vertigos, Sud Sutherland. We can go on. And I think that our work, you know, needs to be celebrated. Coming full circle, you know, kind of what I was saying earlier is like the work, in my opinion, needs to be created by us, with us in key positions, and like the funding needs to be there and accessible, the support needs to be there and accessible, the mentorship needs to be there and accessible, because we can do this here. We just need those same resources and tools. We need that same money to tell our stories. You know, this conversation is fresh on my mind because just yesterday I was talking with a colleague about like losing Black filmmakers to the US, and we should be able to stay here and do that work here. And I think, I mean, you put it well, Cheryl. I think something is brewing and something is happening, and the change is festering. And the work that individuals are doing, you know, with the launch of the Black Screen Office and BIPOC TV and Film, and Hire BIPOC and Access Real World, like these things are starting to come out, and I want them to stay forever and just exist, and let us just be and tell our stories.
No, that's very well said. Maybe if we get into the Q&A just for time's sake, Ayat, is that okay? Okay, so we're kind of at the end of our conversation, but we wanted to open it up to the audience just in the last few minutes here. If there are any questions that you'd like to ask, you can put them in the chat. Let us know. I do see here that actually Lauren Knowles, who's covering the event for the Ryerson, was just asking about pronouns, like each of our pronouns. She, her is fine for me.
She, her.
She, her.
Okay, Lauren, we got you. Also another one from Lauren. Okay, it's a double play. Lauren says, does Canada have any specific programs / organizations that you've taken advantage of for Black filmmakers, or is that missing? And how do we keep these conversations going beyond Black History Month? Excellent question, Lauren.
I think there's that's a great question, and I think there are organizations that we can tap into, like BIPOC TV and Film is one. I'm on the board for BIPOC TV and Film, and a lot of our initiatives are free and accessible. You know, there's Access Real World, there's Real World as an organization in general, which has been around for a long time and does great work and offers great programming. Black Women in Film, you know, tapping into the Black Screen Office. And I just want to highlight here that never be shy to bang on doors and cold call. It seems old school, but I have done it, you know, to go on these lists and see like what's shooting, what speaks to you, doing that research. And if you can access an email or a phone number, make that call, send your resume. I mean, I've definitely got jobs this way. So we have to, going back to not having that uncle, you know, to tap into, you got to kind of do that work yourself, and it can be rewarding, and you can succeed that way as well. And I think go to as many events as you, I mean, it's COVID now, but the one thing I will say is that in these times, I feel like now that things are virtual, they're even more accessible because we don't have to worry about like commuting. Some people don't have the means to, you know, buy film festival tickets and buy these tickets to go to an event, or even like something as simple as going to the movies for a family of 5, like pre-COVID. That's like a lot of money. So the fact that everything's online now, like take advantage of that too, and it's a great way to meet people in these virtual conversations. Mhm.
Yeah, okay, great. I mean, we have another question coming in here from Mir, who's part of the BHM committee. Thank you, Mir, for your question. It says, what is one piece of advice you would give to someone who wants to make a documentary, but doesn't have a huge production team? I.e., there's the director and the head of productions. That's basically it. How would they get that off the ground?
I think one aspect is that whatever team that you do have, it needs to be people that you trust who will like commit to the work. Because, you know, I say that I'm the director and writer of Purple Matter, but I was also the co-producer and the art director, and I was also the PA. Like, you have to prepare to wear many hats, and you have to find people who want to do that work with you. That's my major advice, is that like you just have to double up, and I don't know, I guess find some sort of joy in doing that as well. And I think in that you can have a more like atypical type of film set, and I think that could actually be a good thing, because I think typical film sets with many people and many titles, there's this weird hierarchy and there's weird dynamics that I don't think is helpful to emerging filmmakers. I don't think it's helpful to the industry and how we should be conducting ourselves as artists and creatives.
Okay, thank you. That's a great one. So let's move on. We have a few questions, so we'll just move on because of time. So Amina is saying, thank you so much for such an incredible conversation. You're welcome. My question is, Amina's question, how do you approach funding your films, and what are the unique challenges you face in finding funding as Black women? And you can't say, please, you just go to anyone, please give me money, I'm making a film, please. donate, please.
This is what I do though. Yeah, exactly. I work like 4 jobs to make a project.
Yeah.
Because funding is no joke a problem, especially for emerging, when you want to make short films. Like programs, there's not a lot of programs. Well, we used to have Bravo Fact, doesn't exist anymore, and so funding shorts it's not easy, and that has been my way of making films, is making shorts is out of my own pocket. There's a hard, I don't know how to answer this one. Crowdfunding, the CBCs, you know, they're pretty resourceful over there. But yeah, money, it's no joke a problem here.
Like I think I'm saying this because I didn't do this, but like get organized. Like whenever you find a funding opportunity, put it into a doc, put the deadline and all of these things, prepare all of your documents for these things, and just like make it into a machine how you just like apply to these different funding opportunities, because you're not going to get them all. So just like try to streamline all of it as much as possible.
And also the arts councils are great. Depending on where you live. Sometimes if you live outside of the city, you're not able to apply to like Toronto Arts Council and whatnot. But Canada Arts Council, Ontario Arts Council, I've gotten a grant from Ontario Arts Council, and the councils are great to tap into, and have somebody who can support you in writing those grants as well. I'm not strong at it. So finding those supports, definitely tap into the arts councils for sure.
Yes, and I see a comment from Elvina, one of my students. Hey, Elvina, saying Art Reach TO, Toronto Arts Council has amazing grants. Also creators grants from Ryerson Library is also great for students funding. Thank you for that. And now we have a question from Tina Marie, like the singer from back in the day. No, I doubt it. I think she passed away a few years ago, actually. But the question from Tina is there any basic starter equipment you would recommend as a must-have when getting into film? I'm assuming you need a camera.
But we have phones.
Right. Yeah. Sorry?
We have phones, the easiest thing. Phone. These phones do some crazy things. Equipment for me, I don't like to like be like, get the black magic, because these things change every day, every like month there's a new one, and then you got to upgrade, and you spend thousands of dollars on a red, and then they come out with, so I think take advantage of organizations like Lyft, your school, where you can rent equipment and play around. I'm not really for like spending 50 grand and on these cameras when you got to change them all the time, or imagine little piece breaks. Like, no,
yeah,
use that money to make the film.
Yeah, no, for sure. Are there any more questions? We just have a couple more minutes. I'm seeing Mira saying, yes, Shona, get that funding. Yes, I mean, the truth is, in any creative work, as an academic, I actually consider myself to be a creative too, because I do a lot of other projects. You are constantly looking for opportunities and grants and applying. And as you keep doing it, you get better at explaining who you are and what it is that you're trying to do, right? It's always about getting the first one. Then you realize, oh, okay, this is how I need to word it. And I think it's getting over that hump when it comes to money, right? Like for that first grant. And then once you get it, you'll figure out how to keep getting them. I think the real question is how do you get that big private money that just comes in that doesn't require an application, right? Which again, Ayat speaks to connections that people might have when you're not connected in the industry in that way. You don't have access to that money. You can't ask your uncle for $100,000 to make an experimental film, for example. Right? Like, you're kind of trying to do that on your own. But yeah, Shona, do you have something else to say?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I know people who've gotten money from brands by simply just saying like, oh, we'll wear this or have this product, and then the brand or the company will throw some money into the film. Or some people, they come in as silent partners. If you put together a good pitch deck and a good pitch package, they'll come in and support with some money, and only for like a thank you credit in the end, or their logo in the credits, because that's free advertising for them. So yeah, always think outside of the box too, as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, in my class, I talk about like even branded content and product placement. I mean, we know that these are sort of things that are increasingly in the film industry. Just one more question that's come in by Xian, I think the name is. The question was for the panel: do you ever feel pressure to represent as Black creators? And I assume that means like represent for like your community. Like everywhere you go, you're like representing for the whole, as opposed to just for yourself as an individual.
Absolutely.
No. Do you? I don't.
Oh.
That's interesting.
It depends. Like, I feel like when people ask that question, and I don't know if this is where this is coming from, but there's so much. There is pressure, in my opinion, of course, put on us as Black filmmakers. But in my experience, that pressure isn't coming from us. It's coming from white investors, and that I'm not interested. Like, if there is pressure there, at least for myself, maybe it's internal, it's from me, but like that external pressure, yeah, whenever I've experienced it, it's not from people that look like me.
Mm. I feel like, say like with Purple Matter, something that I struggled with was, am I just making another queer film that's about coming out or surrounding coming out? And I've that's the type of pressure that I felt like I was just falling into other stereotypes, and that may be kind of like things that are like internalized, whether it's, you know, from my community or people not from my community. But I think, I don't know, I definitely felt it for me, but like we move, so.
Oh my God, I love that. That is perfect way to end. We move. Ladies, gentlemen, they, them, and everyone else in between, we have come to the end of our Q&A here, and of Behind the Camera, Black in Motion, BHM 2021. I want to thank everyone for attending. I want to thank everyone who was involved in the organizing. Can we just unmute and give a little clap for Shona and Ayat? Because if you will unmute and give an actual clap so we can hear you, that would be lovely. Am I the only one?
No.
Yes, please unmute, because I think the virtual clap, who wants to see like two, what is essentially a white hand clapping? Like, can we, you know, we want to keep it to the BMH event. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming. We'd love to hear your feedback. If you had a great time at this event, if you loved what we talked about, and you want to see more of it, please send us an email either at the Catalyst or Smacked, if anyone wants to put that info into the chat box. Otherwise, everyone, have a safe evening, and we want to see you in 2022 in person at Ryerson at FCAD, where there will be food and a band. So thank you so much, and have a good evening.